Woody Wommack joined by Mike Farrell for our weekly podcast. Mike, how you doing?
I'm in a bad mood. 23 degrees up here in Connecticut. 23 degrees that's the high today.
I think we have a low of like 27 or something tonight, but then it's gonna warm up, and I'm headed to Alabama to stand outside and film people practicing.
I don't even want to get into that because I don't even know how that's happening. But again, whatever. But I'm in the mood to argue. So that's always fun.
Let's start right away. You can make South Carolina fans angry. We talked about this before when my sources, by the way, I was way out in front of everybody on this one, I believe.
Who are your sources? I want to, don't have to tell me who, but who?
People, despite everybody thinking that nobody likes me, some people like to tell me stuff. I thought that Shane Beamer was going to get hired about 10 days ago. And then about a week ago in our group text thread with all the analysts, I said, hey, have you guys heard that Shane Beamer's a done deal? And everybody just said, ignored me. And
everybody ignored you. Yeah, that's what they did.
And then finally it became a done deal late Saturday night.
Yeah.
We talked about this before. You did not like the hire with the thought of it initially. You still feel that way?
Nah, yeah, I'm not thrilled with it, but it's not my program. But I wasn't thrilled with the Muschamp one either because I thought he was sort of a retread, had his chance with a Ferrari, so he's not going to drive I'll be nice and say Mercedes-Benz. I'll call the Gamecocks program Mercedes-Benz, but Beamer doesn't have any head coaching experience. So what they're relying on is that he learned a lot from his dad. Obviously, he's been an assistant coach, and he's been assistant coach in offense, defense. He's the associate head coach or whatever you want to call it at Oklahoma. So he's been around people who have run programs, sure, and very, very good people. Obviously, his dad, Spurrier, Lincoln Riley, but that doesn't mean you're going to be successful, especially in, at the same state as Clemson, in an SEC East that's getting stronger, at least stronger at the top with Florida and Georgia. So I just don't know. I don't know who they could have hired. I would have liked Billy Napier because he's an offensive guy, and he is a guy who calls his own plays. And Louisiana beat didn't they beat your guy Matt Campbell?
Yeah, and they beat App State the other day. A nice win.
Yes, which I actually won money on, which was good. So, I'd rather have somebody with experience, but I know he's going to be very popular there. Everybody loves him. He's a good recruiter. So, there'll be the positive, this, that, and the other. We got this recruit. We're doing better here, this, that, and the other. But in 3 years from now, I just think this is going to be one of those things where it's like, we're looking for another coach again.
Well, see, I don't have an issue, especially with them shifting to an offensive focus. We've heard Nick Saban say, look, offense wins championships now. The one thing that I don't like about the hire is one of the selling points appears to be someone is making so much noise outside of my house right now.
I can't hear it.
One of the selling points appears to be former players really love him. And I'm like, former players should have no input on any coaching hire because look what they've done at Miami. I mean, they were ready to fire Manny Diaz last year. They ran every coach out there for 15 years.
Yeah, that shouldn't matter. I mean,
nobody cares what fans care. Administrations should not make hires based on what former players think.
No. And maybe this is them trying to make up for the fact that they turned down Lincoln Riley the first time. So they'll take the guy who was sort of his right-hand man at Oklahoma. But listen, if he's his dad, which is hard to live up to, it's an amazing hire because I have tremendous respect for what Frank Beamer did, at Virginia Tech in Blacksburg, a program that, and everybody says, it was because of Vic. No. Vic certainly helped. But, man, what he did there with Bud Foster was amazing. It's like what Dabo's doing at Clemson. So, if he has that blood in him, great. Then they got themselves the guy. But I just don't know if he's his dad.
All right. Give me one school that hasn't fired their coach, but is somehow having a national coaching search. University of Texas. Urban Meyer's not coming, I guess, even though the job's never been open. And now we're hearing some other rumors about other coaches. I think Herman's going to stay. What do you think's going to happen?
I think the only way they would make a change is if it was a home run hire. Um, Urban Meyer's a home run hire, but you remember this is the same. Isn't this the same program that had the Nick Saban was going to leave Alabama rumors years ago? Or
Yes.
am I mean, it's. I hate to see the Texas. I hate to see the Texas program turn into what's happened at Tennessee with the Gruden rumors. Where it's going to be every time they need a new coach, it's going to be pie in the sky, like, oh, Bill Belichick's going to come to Texas. I don't know if Urban was interested. He had every opportunity to say he wasn't. He was asked about it. He was on TV. It's not like he's hidden in a corner. So, yeah, I think Herman will probably be there too. Because now what are the names? Dan Mullen's not going to leave Florida for Texas. Just not going to happen. It would be stunning if, Jimbo leaving Florida State for Texas A&M was worked behind the scenes for a very, very long time. I don't believe there's been a secret tunnel from Austin to Gainesville to have Dan Mullen go lead Texas. I think he's happy there. I think people are happy with him. So then who else is maybe mentioned? I don't even know.
Cristobal, they said, but
Well, he's coming off 2 horrible losses. His star isn't shining as much as it was. He's a good coach. I think had he beaten Oregon State and Cal, who are 2 really bad football teams, you could say maybe he could pick his job, Texas, Michigan. We all know he wants Miami eventually, or he wants Alabama. But no, I don't see that happening either. I mean, how do you sell that to your university boosters? And did you see that secret email where the 7 million or the 7-figure endowment in my will is being pulled if you don't fire Tom Hunter? That's how Texas is. So you pull a coach who's just lost 2 horrible games in a horrible conference to replace Tom Herman. It's not going to go over well. And I love Cristobal, that.
well, one of the things that makes him tricky is he's got an $8 million buyout. So not only do you have to pay to get rid of Herman, however many millions, then you got to pay $8 million just to hire, just to start with Cristobal. Then you're going to have to pay him $5-6 million a year. It's like at this point, given the timeline and everything, it's not going to. All it's going to do is ruin your recruiting class.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, boosters wipe their butt with more than that on a daily basis.
Well, right, but I mean, we're still doing furloughs and we're asking secretaries to take pay cuts, and it's like, that's
you talk about optics, Woody?
Yeah, I am. I mean,
they don't care about optics in Texas. They care about winning the Big 12. But I agree with you. I think this has to be a home run hire. They're not going to do it, and they'll just wait another year. And then with Sam Ellinger gone, do things get worse? Now, Bijan Robinson is a very, very positive point we could talk about. Okay.
Yeah. Shocker. The 5-star running back looks good when he finally gets to touch the ball.
That's the thing. So maybe they've figured out how to utilize him a little bit better, and maybe he's going to be that weapon we thought. And again, he's a freshman. Nobody expected him to do this from day one, but maybe he could be, well, you can't say Chuba Hubbard because he's been not so good this year, but maybe he can be like a McCaffrey type, for Texas and carry the offense, and maybe they can get a little bit better on defense and more physical. They got a lot of problems though. They're not a very good football team. There is some talent there, but Herman or anybody else, they're not going to win the Big 12 next year.
Yeah, I think I'm not willing to say that they have no chance. I just think making a change for change's sake right now, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I think, maybe you reset, you come in ready to fire Herman in the middle of the year if you have to, like Les Miles style, and then make a move. But if you don't have a clear candidate, what's the point? Why are we in a rush to fire a dude who just scored 70 points?
Well, do you go after Matt Campbell if he wants
No, no.
I know you don't like Matt Campbell, but he's beaten Texas. Like he's beaten
So
everybody in the Big 12. Everybody.
no, you can't beat Billy Napier.
No, he can't. But Iowa State, man. Iowa State's beaten Oklahoma, what, 2 straight years?
I don't know. They're going to lose by 30 points in the rematch. That's all I know.
They've beaten Texas. I mean, this Iowa State. Um, so he does a great job. Now, again, maybe that's the too big a program. Maybe he's not going to have the magic. Maybe he's a guy who works behind the scenes at smaller programs. I don't know,
He's
but
a Midwest guy too. Like he would be better off taking the Michigan job.
I could recruit. And again, this is what puzzles me so much. Charlie Strong couldn't recruit Texas. Uh, Tom Herman can't recruit Texas. How can you not recruit Texas when all you have to do is walk into a school with burnt orange on and it's over? Like, I don't understand this. And all of these kids leaving, going to Ohio States and Alabama's and other places, they want to win, but it's really not a hard place to recruit. Not at all.
Well, they get plenty of good players. They're missing on the great players. The list is well known. The Jeffrey Okudas of the world. Now it's trickling down into the class of 2022. But even Ohio State, they've been killing them in Texas. They did it with Urban Meyer, and now they're doing it again with Ryan Day, with the wide receivers, Garrett Wilson, of course. I mean, he looks amazing. You should have ranked him higher, Mike.
You know what? We're right. I mean, people are right about that. Garrett Wilson does look great, and he should have been ranked higher. But I'm going to blame that on our state of Texas person and not myself. I take the blame for nothing and credit for everything. You know that. But Texas is one of those programs. There were a few programs that I said have to lower their expectations. Nebraska, Tennessee. Let's try to get a winning season, okay? Shall we? Or a consistent 2 winning seasons. Let's do that. Let's try to win a division title in the last 15 years. Michigan's another one, but Texas should never lower their expectations, and they should always win, and they should always recruit. So I really don't know what to say about Texas and what the solution is.
All right, another school kind of aimlessly moving along. They lost their 6th straight game. This one, once again, by double digits. They did cover with the last-second touchdown, which made a lot of people very angry. That's Tennessee. They never were really in that game. I mean, they predictably put up a fight early, which I think I said on our picks. I liked them in the first half. But I don't know. You said you watched the game. You wanted to see Harrison Bailey, who's a 5-star freshman quarterback. I watched it too. And first of all, what'd you think? What were your biggest takeaways? And we can kind of talk about it.
Well, you usually have, obviously you flip around and you tape games and you watch them later and stuff like that. But, I really wanted to focus on this one because Harrison Bailey was going to play, Garantano was not part of the equation, and he's been getting all the blame. And I'm not defending him at all. He hasn't been good. But this is not a good football team at all, period. End of story. They covered. So here's the way the Vols fans look at it is, well, we lost to Georgia and Alabama by like 30 plus or something with Jarrett Garantano, and we only lost by 12 to Harrison Bailey. Well, first of all, it wasn't just Harrison Bailey. He looked okay for a freshman. It was a late garbage touchdown by what's his name?
JT Shrout.
JT Shrout. I get him and CJ, the Ohio State kid, mixed up, so I morph their names. It's really fun. I do it all the time. But that team doesn't have, the offensive line was the biggest, and I was guilty of this. They were overrated beyond belief as far as a unit. They don't have any guys that scare me at all at the wide receiver position. And I know they're supposed to have the fastest incoming wide receiver group in the country and all that stuff. I didn't see speed. And then Aaron Murray kept talking about their power running game, which is horrible. So what are they? Are they a power running team? Play action? Can they spread you out? No, they can't do anything. and defensively they're equally poor. So what I saw was a program that is really, really far from competing, as far as a Nebraska or some other program that the fan base is just waiting for them to be good. This isn't going to be a coach change, boom, we got our guy. This is going to take an entire 5 years maybe for them to win the SEC East or even come close to it. They looked very pedestrian. If they had, this is bad, I know. If they were running around in scarlet with R on the side of their helmet, I would not have mistaken them for Rutgers. Like, I would not have been able to tell the difference. That's how bad I think they looked.
Yeah, I mean, one of the issues I saw, and obviously they're trying to protect him. I mean, some of these plays where it's run, run, and then they just set up Bailey to just get killed on third down. I mean, I saw some stats today. He was terrible against the blitz. Well, it's like a lot of them were obvious. You know, that's what Grantham loves to do. He loves to blitz, right? So, you know, setting it up with run, run. Okay, watch him get killed. And I saw a lot of people tweeting about it. I didn't think he looked bad. I actually thought Bailey looked pretty poised at times. I do think the offense kind of got stuck. I mean, that's a bad defense too. I was surprised they didn't run the. I'm always surprised that they don't run the ball more, because Eric Gray looks like their only capable weapon. You know, I know they were without some people on the offensive line, but I'm with you, man. There's not a lot. I checked their receivers, so I was like, when Devontae Smith was on pace for 300 yards or whatever, I was like, let me see, could he get more yards receiving in this game than Tennessee's leading receiver on the season? And I think he had 230, and Tennessee's leading receiver has like 360 or something. I mean, that's embarrassing. Like,
yeah, I think Harrison Bailey has talent. There's just no talent around him, you know. And again, so let's say he develops and turns into a really good quarterback. It doesn't matter. And that was the point I was making on Sunday when I wrote that in Fact or Fiction. And, you know, people were upset about it and stuff. But I think this isn't a Pruitt problem. This is a program problem. These recruits are not that great, and the talent on this team is so far below anything you're going to see. I mean, this is a Florida defense that isn't very good, and they looked good. Grantham is not a great defensive coordinator, and he dialed up all the right plays. And, you know, when you talk about the Georgias and Alabamas and LSUs from last year and Texas A&Ms, they have no chance to beat these teams.
well, so we were talking about South Carolina earlier. In the East, there's not a lot of juggernauts. I mean, you're talking Missouri, Vanderbilt, South Carolina, Kentucky. Okay, and then you got Florida and Georgia.
Yeah.
And of course Tennessee. So those bottom five teams are basically going to all battle each other. Missouri's got a good quarterback, man. They look like, you know, I know you love the coach there. They look like they're ahead of Tennessee already. Kentucky, you know, even though they fired their whole offensive staff, they beat Tennessee by 30. You know, South Carolina is now making a change. I know Tennessee actually beat Missouri this year, but that was with the other quarterback. I think if Missouri played with Connor Bazalic or whatever his name is instead of Sean Robinson, they probably win that game too. So you're in trouble, but there's not like turning it around it's not insurmountable if you are realistic with your expectations. Florida and Georgia are now basically uncatchable within a 3 or 4 year window for anyone else, right? Especially Tennessee.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying 5 years, you know, and you can't give Pruitt 5 more years. No one's going to wait that long. So then you're going to bring some other coach in here. And the way these searches have gone for Tennessee, they're always going to get their 7th or 8th choice, which is, I don't understand that either. You know, this is a storied program with a great tradition, great facilities. They're the pro team in Knoxville. The fan base is amazing. It's just weird that, you know, they just never get their first 6 guys. So let's say they do make a change and they get their 6th or 7th choice, then that guy's not going to get more than 5 years to turn this around either. So I just don't know. I was looking for something to hold, my hat on for Tennessee fans. And I really came away from that game, disappointed in Florida too. We can segue to that. I mean, they should have blown them out. They should have destroyed them. If they had any sort of running game at all. You imagine the numbers Kyle Trask would put up if he had a balanced offense. Their running game stinks.
Well, and they've kind of done this like several games in a row now, even against Vanderbilt. Like, Kyle Trask shouldn't be in the fourth quarter against Vanderbilt, still having to throw, like you said. I mean, why can't they? They can't run the ball really at all. I mean, they had like 10 yards rushing, didn't they, against Tennessee?
Yeah, horrible. And that offensive line gets no push whatsoever, but yet they can protect Trask. Now, again, he's got a lot of weapons, man. I mean, a lot of big weapons too. It's good to see Grimes finally start to, play sort of what we saw. Remember how much I loved him when I saw him. I'm like, geez, this kid is going to be amazing. And he goes to Ohio State as family issues, come back to Florida, and now he's starting to become that weapon. But, Shorter is a huge target who's been a disappointment, but it's not just Pitts. And of course, the slot receiver, it's ridiculous how much talent Trask has to throw to, except there's nobody in the backfield. Now, imagine if they had Najee Harris. So what you're talking about is you're talking about Florida with Trask and Jones, great wide receivers, and Florida has no running back, and Alabama has Najee Harris. And that's why I think that running game is going to be the downfall for them.
And I think it's the offensive line as well. I mean, I see a lot of Florida fans on Twitter complaining about their offensive line play. Fans do this thing now where they refer to players by numbers, so the player doesn't search and find them and then block them or something.
Right.
So I don't know who the guy's name is, but they were really hammering on number 56. After watching, I've watched Florida. I've been heavy on Florida on the old gambling front the last few weeks. I'm taking Alabama by 3 touchdowns in that game.
I think it's going to get out of hand early.
I just don't think they can keep up. I just don't. I like Trask. I like you said, they got weapons all over the place with the receivers. But, I mean, Alabama's defense has gotten better. And if they can't run the ball, they're not, like you said, they can't run it, they're not going to win anything.
Well, you know what they should do is Kadarius Toney should be the running back.
Yeah. I mean,
Dameon Pierce, Malik Davis, these guys, I'm looking up their stats and, average carry is, 3.8 or 4.5 or whatever. It's awful. And you got to be creative. I don't even know what team Cordell Patterson plays for. Do you?
I think he's on the Bears.
Okay. Well, yeah, you're right. And they use him all over the place. And he's, in lieu of a running attack, which they don't really have, and a quarterback, at least Florida's got a quarterback. Just use Toney all over the place as a running back and get him touches, because you're not going to have a chance with these running backs in the offensive line. You need someone shifty, and he's sneaky strong too. He's 6', 193, and he's hard to bring down. But you're going to have to get gimmicky if you're going to stay with Alabama, because, running the ball against Tennessee's defense and having zero impact makes you very one-dimensional, and Alabama thrives on one-dimensional stuff.
Sorry, I got ESPN and these autoplay videos, man. Yeah, I agree. I mean, Tony's awesome. Tony's supposed to be like Percy Harvin, essentially, right?
Yeah, I mean, they compare him. I mean, I get that. He's not as fast.
I just mean his role in Mullins.
Yeah, but Percy Harvin took a lot of inside handoffs, and they did a lot of things with Tebow and Harvin, and and they don't have to right now. I mean, they're beating these teams convincingly, not covering, but they're beating these teams easily, right? So they're beating them easily enough without having to do that. But they're going to have to do something different because I'm with you. I think Alabama's just going to just score, and then Florida's going to score, then Alabama's going to score, then Florida's going to kick a field goal, then Alabama's going to score, then Florida's going to punt, and then it's over. I mean, you're going to be, 2 scores behind.
Well, and I kind of get it. It's like I said, the game was never in doubt against Vanderbilt or even Tennessee, even when they're losing, they were down 7-3 or whatever.
Or Kentucky, same thing.
It's kind of sleepwalking, but at the same time, some of these other teams, if you look at Alabama, Ohio State, they're crushing people and not really leaving any doubt. So let's transition. Let's talk Ohio State. They really killed Michigan State. Didn't matter who was playing. Max Ray, blast from the past, started at left guard for them, I think, and had a great game, graded out very well. In his first game he'd ever played, 3 years into his career.
Yeah, they were missing 20 guys?
Yeah, it didn't matter at all.
I think 3 starting offensive linemen.
Right, and the first drive when they can't even snap the ball. I mean, Fields is making all types of plays, and I mean it was clear right away. It was like, this is not going to be close. Fields is winning this game.
Yeah, and they are, hopefully playing Michigan this weekend. They're 30-point favorites, so let's get them in the Big Ten title game where they can blow out Northwestern and get into the playoff, because this is a playoff caliber team. It's a very talented team. How about Fields in the hustle?
That shows how fast he is. I thought that was a block in the back.
Oh, it was. They could have called it, and they should have called it. And part of me thinks that he did the block in the back so they could get the ball at the 3 so he could throw a touchdown. But man, the hustle was amazing. It really was. And that just shows you that this team, will run through a wall. I know Dave wasn't there, but they're coached well. They play angry. They're talented. They can hang with anybody. They need to be in the playoff. If Ohio State doesn't play enough games to get in the playoff, it would be a sin, because Michigan State's not very good, but Michigan State is a team you would expect to stay within 30 some odd points when Ohio State's missing 20 people, and they had no chance to do it. So
yeah, and Michigan State's kind of been up and down. It's like one week they look great, next week they look horrible, and but at least they're showing progress. But all right, so let's talk about your playoff rankings here, Mike. Let's talk about Ohio State, because we were told that the Pac-12 going 7-0 or whatever wasn't enough for them to get in, but now Ohio State going 6-0 or 7-0 is enough for them to get in. So,
yeah.
Let's hear the explanation there.
Yeah. It's because Ohio State's 100 times better than any Pac-12 team. That's kind of it. Although Amon-Ra, how about Amon-Ra?
Yeah, I mean, USC looks pretty good right now after kind of stumbling out of the gate. They're 4-0 now.
Yeah. The problem is they're going to get who? Washington in the title game, or some horrible team that isn't going to further their resume, even if they do go undefeated. So the Pac-12 started very late, and I said they're already out of the playoffs. So Ohio State, again, started late. They've had, they struggle with Indiana a little bit. So it's definitely hypocritical of me to say that Ohio State should be in there, but
it's not just you, it's everybody.
But you got to look at the rosters. You got to look at the talent. You got to look at, would you rather have, a USC team that's barely beating Arizona and Arizona State early in the season, which has a nice roster, or would you rather have an Ohio State team that can possibly give somebody a game, unless they run into Clemson, because Clemson seems to beat them up pretty good. But I got Ohio State in the playoff. I got the same. I mean, I still think we're talking that this was over with a month ago or 3 weeks ago. I still think Trevor and Clemson are going to beat Notre Dame. I think both Notre Dame and Clemson are going to get in. Alabama is going to destroy Florida. And then you've got Ohio State. So there's your 4.
Yeah. So if say Notre Dame wins again, then it comes down to Texas A&M,
Yep.
I guess Cincinnati, or USC. Would you take? Would you think about taking USC if USC is 7-0?
Nope.
Would you take them, Cincinnati, or Texas A&M for the last spot?
I'd take A&M because it was the win over Florida. Again, second in your own division, that's kind of stupid. And you've already lost to one of the playoff teams by 30 points. But I would take Texas A&M. I mean, Cincinnati, hey, that would be a nice story. Good team. But they don't have any big wins on their resume, and USC won't have any big ones on their resume either. So at least A&M has the victory over Florida. They've played an SEC only schedule. If they do go and lose one game, they're almost benefiting from not being in the SEC championship game, from being in the West, because we know if they went to the title game against Alabama, they would get destroyed. And we've seen it. So now Florida gets to get destroyed, and A&M gets to maybe backdoor in if Clemson loses. But Clemson's not going to lose. If Trevor were playing against Notre Dame, they would not have lost that football game. And everybody says, well, DJ Uiagalelei put up great numbers. It wasn't the quarterback problem. Yeah, well, you could put up great numbers and still be missing your leader and the guy that the whole team revolves around. And that changes everything. It is, I don't even think it becomes a close game if Trevor's in there. So I expect Clemson to beat them by a couple touchdowns.
Yeah, Clemson hasn't been as impressive as I would have liked in a lot of these games. But it could be a situation like Florida too. I just still think right now in my mind, Alabama is head and shoulders above basically everybody. So,
but if Alabama plays Clemson in the title game, that's going to be a good game.
Right. No, I agree. Oh,
right.
Could you imagine Mac against Trevor, a rematch of the 2016 Rivals Quarterback Challenge?
The quarterback challenge, where that was funny. Mac talked a lot of garbage. Trevor was the young, pony-maned, gangly future star, and then we had another quarterback there who I won't mention, who couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, who a certain ACC team thought was going to be there.
Oh, that's right.
Their leader. But also, guess who else was there? Mac Jones. I mean, not Mac Jones, Emory Jones.
No, Emory Jones. I've got all
Emory was better than both of them. Sort of. Not really. That's when he was going to go to Ohio State, too, remember?
Don't worry. We're going to have a lot of content from that QB challenge if this shakes out the way it's
supposed. What if Emory Jones went to Ohio State?
You think he'd be playing?
I don't know. Would he beat out? I mean, would Fields ever transfer? Would Haskins have won the job so easily?
I think Haskins would have won the job, but I think he'd probably be in there now instead of Fields. But who knows? I mean, he hasn't. It's not exactly like he's,
No, he doesn't look good, but he's not also being utilized the way he should.
Right.
Throw him in there, and he's like Justin Fields at Georgia. Just here you go, run.
Yeah, he never gets a chance to throw, and there was a time.
Got a really good arm. So, But yeah, I love those what ifs.
He was injured early this year too, because I remember there was one game where he didn't come in. He had some type of hand injury or something. So, all right, Mike, let's talk about Coach of the Year. Something I don't really care about, but something
I do.
Discuss. Who's your guy?
I do. I care about it because it's going to be Tom Allen from Indiana, and I think that's cool. I think that's awesome. No one's done a better job with their team. No team loves their coach more than him, at least publicly. You can make a case for Jimbo. You can make a case for Dan Mullen. You can't make a case for Saban or Day. It's just the way it is. Matt Campbell, certainly, but Tom Allen, hands down.
I wish there was just one Coach of the Year award. The problem is there's a million different awards. It's like, oh, this guy's the whatever Coach of the Year, and this guy's the whoever.
It's college football, man. It's sponsored by whoever wants to pay for a coaching award. It's the same thing with like the Davey O'Brien Awards and all that other stuff. All these traditional awards that, okay, if somebody wins the Heisman and doesn't win the Davey O'Brien, then what do we do?
Well, they gotta give it to whoever's going to show up to accept it. Number one, that's it.
Well, I could tell you, Tom Allen will show up. He's not afraid of COVID.
How come you don't have a vote in any of these things, Mike?
I don't have a vote in anything. Absolutely nothing. No Heisman. No nothing.
You know who has a Heisman vote? It's
Oh,
Richie from the Rutgers
how
side.
is that possible? Now, how's that? Listen, I I should have stayed a beat writer. I should have stayed. I would have a vote.
So I used to vote. Can't remember what top 25 I voted in, and people used to get so mad at me because the team would lose, and I'd drop them all the way out of the top 25, and I only have undefeated teams. Like,
As they should be. Listen, after week one, Penn State was 0-1, right? Still in the top 25.
yeah, I would drop them.
Week two, 0-2, still in the top 25. I'm with you.
Yeah,
Like,
I'd drop them all the way out, and they could come back in after every team has one loss. They could start.
right, win or you're out. But I have no vote in anything. I don't want to vote. I'm not part of the, what is it, the FWW.
No, please, yeah. What, me,
I'm not a member of anything except for like the AAA Auto Club.
it's
Um,
I find it funny when people of those members of those groups are tweeting at me, calling me names on, and I'm like, wait a minute, aren't you a professional football writer? Why are you mad about what I said about your team? You know, I thought you were a professional here.
Now, apparently anybody can get. I've seen some people be, listed that just don't even belong. They don't even belong with a computer. They shouldn't even have a computer.
You know, I reported somebody once. Some guy was calling me a bunch of names, and he had that in his bio. And
Did he lose it?
I emailed like several of the people. I was like, "You're the head of this thing. This guy's one of your people. You know, like, what
Yeah.
what does it take to join here?" And
Did he lose it?
the guy's still kicking around. I don't know if he's in the FWAA. He's some type of like blogger aggregator person, but he's like a big Tennessee fan, I think.
Some people like really take that seriously, like being a member of that, and like it's a big deal. I don't want a Heisman vote. I don't want a top 25 vote. I don't want any of that stuff. Um, I like doing high school football rankings because
You get to do your own. You get to do your own awards anyway.
that's true. The Farrell Awards, which are, I still haven't come up with a budget from the company for Farrell Award trophies or anything like that. Like the Herbies have trophies, right? Of course, Herbie is, 1,000 times more popular and smarter and better than me in every way. But
Don't you give a trophy out for like recruiter of the year or something?
I used to. We used to give out top 25 and recruiter of the year. So I used to order the frames, right? I used to order the certificates. I used to type up the certificates, order the frames. Then the frames would come from one place, certificates from another. I would spend my entire month of June putting the freaking certificates into the frames and with the plastic over it, and then tracking down addresses for coaches who didn't want to give me their home address because they thought I was some stalker or something. And then I would send it to the school, and then they would get it, and I never got one. I got two thank yous. And then I said, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. Forget about it.
So nobody gets one anymore.
No, forget it. There's a couple people out there, and you know who you are, that were very appreciative of it and hung it up and love it. And then there's others of you that probably just threw it right in the trash. So, when it comes to your recruiting rankings and stuff like that, I don't want to hear it. Unless you can display your top 25 recruiter plaque that I personally put together, I don't want to hear your complaints.
All right, Heisman Watch, real quick. We kind of talked about it. I mean,
It's
it's a
over.
two-man race now, right?
The one-man race.
What, you think Trask won? So he's gonna. What if he loses? So he loses to Mac Jones in the SEC championship game. He's gonna win the Heisman.
I mean, it's no, it's not over, but the numbers are so much. They're so skewed in his favor. I mean, as far as the numbers he's putting up compared to Mac. Mac's putting up good numbers. Trask is putting up great numbers. We know that if Trask loses to Alabama, he's still going to throw for 3 touchdowns or 4 touchdowns. I doubt he's going to throw for picks. I just think it's going to be one of those situations where Alabama just can't be stopped defensively, and he's going to end up in a shootout. And I think Trask is going to win it. Now, again, it's not over. Wilson's out, of course, because they lost. So that finally happened.
Yeah, I'm glad he's out.
I mean, Trevor should get it just for being Trevor. That'd be nice.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. Trask has like 100 yards more passing. He's got like 10 more touchdowns. That's
Yeah.
where it comes through. But it's not like he's not that far ahead of him, is he?
No, but and they both have very, 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 very limited interceptions. I mean, the touchdown to interception ratio is very small, but he does have like 10 more touchdowns, and that's a huge deal. And I don't think it's something Mac can make up. But again, I don't know. They always give it to the best quarterback on the best team, and Mac is the best quarterback on Alabama.
Well, I mean, when Lamar Jackson won, he wasn't on the best team.
Well, that's true, but his numbers were ridiculous.
Yeah,
RG3 too. That's a good example.
I think I think the year Mariota won, they weren't number one either. I mean, I think but he had like insane stats.
Yeah, and all those guys, RG3 and Mariota and Lamar had serious rushing numbers.
Right.
I mean, big time crazy rushing numbers. So, we've got a couple of pocket guys who don't run. It's down to those two. Trevor just missed 2 games and he's not going to win it, and that's just the way it is. So I've got Trask.
All right.
Oh,
It's great. It's crazy to think that we're going to have 2 5-star quarterbacks who had great careers, made the playoffs every time. Trevor with the national championship, and they're never going to. I mean, Trevor might not even be a finalist.
no, and you know what? I don't think he cares. I don't think he cares at all. I think what he cares about is the Jets purposely blowing that game yesterday, and that he's going to be a New York Jet. I think he cares about that a lot. I guarantee you he was well, no, not Trevor. Trevor's different, but part of me wants to think he was watching that game.
I don't think he was watching that game.
He probably wasn't. But
I don't think he cares. And if I don't think he's necessarily thinking about it. But if he wanted to avoid the Jets, I could see it happening.
Yeah, but he's not that tight,
Well, here's the thing: they're going to hire a new coach and a new GM. The new coach is going to come in knowing that he's going to get to coach Trevor Lawrence. So they're not going to hire, Mike Vrabel like the Titans. Or they're going to have to. They need to go hire like an offensive genius, right? That's going to be the move.
Yeah, and build, and people say there's no talent on that roster. There's some talent, but not a lot.
Yeah, you got Braxton Berrios, Josh Malone, and who's who of Woody's favorite recruits on that team.
Jacksonville is not much better off when you look at them. So, if that's what it came down to, as we were watching the ends of those games and Jacksonville scored and you got the 2-point conversion, but the Jets blew it on purpose, it's not, neither are great choices. And that's where, you're going to see Trevor go 1 and Fields go 2, and they're going to have to rebuild with those teams without a lot of talent.
They'll be fine. Trevor will be fine. They'll get talent in there. How about Lamar? That was Lamar Jackson in coverage. Did you see that?
Yeah, Lamar Jackson, the other Lamar.
Yeah, 1-on-1. Lamar Jackson in coverage against Henry Ruggs.
Well, Greg Williams decided to bring the house, which is always smart. Now, people say, I hate when teams go into the prevent defense. It's so stupid. It prevents you from winning. Well, not with 5 seconds left. I mean, really, you should kind of stay in a prevent defense with 5. He brought 10. It looked like.
Well, there's a difference about prevent defense while teams going down the field. This was the last play of the game. It was a Hail Mary. And then they fired.
It wasn't a Hail Mary, though. It was a 1-on-1 single coverage, easy throw. That's what's so funny about it. It's like Hail Mary, you expect a couple defenders to be around, but Greg Williams brought the house.
Right, like, it didn't have to
do this. I'm bringing 10, 1-on-1 Lamar Jackson, who was a safety in high school, who was a very, very average cornerback.
He's an undrafted rookie.
Yeah, I'm going to put him on Henry Ruggs, who runs a 4.2, and we're going to roll the dice.
But he got fired today. Did you see that?
He did, and this is all a ploy. It's all scripted. There's no doubt in my mind the Jets blew that game on purpose. There's no way they could have lost it, but yet they did. So this is all scripted. Greg Williams Probably got a nice little hefty, little kick in the butt check to blow that coverage and get out of here. Adam Gase will be gone and they'll refresh. But there was no way the Jets were going to lose Trevor. No way.
Oh man, what a team for him to go to. It's kind of sad, really.
It is, because they just never had a winning. Like, even when Rex Ryan was there and they were making the playoffs, just never had a winning feel to them, culture.
Yeah, their offense has always been just boring.
Yeah, and the last guy who won there was Joe Namath, and that was 100 years ago. I mean, you'd like to see him go to even, like, what's another crappy team besides Jacksonville?
I don't know, the Vikings.
They're not that bad, though, because Dalvin Cook carried them. I'm trying to think of who else. Like, the Falcons stink.
Yeah, it'd be great if he could come here.
That'd be great.
Here's what I think is going to happen. I think Jacksonville is going to talk themselves into Zach Wilson, and Fields might have a chance to slip down to like the Panthers or the Falcons or somebody.
I think the Panthers or the Falcons would love that.
I just think.
What about the kid from North Dakota State? Someone will fall in love with him too.
Well, of course, he looked bad in the one game he played, but like these draft people, they love to get cute, and they got cute on Zach Wilson. Oh, look at his incompletions. Oh my God, even his incompletions are exciting. It's like, don't overthink it. They did it with Mitch Trubisky. How did that work out?
Did it with Carson Wentz.
Yeah, Carson Wentz too, who, I guess was good at one. Everyone says he was at MVP level. I'm like, when was that exactly? I guess I missed that. It was like
he got worse every year. I mean, he just got worse every year. That's kind of how some of these guys are. And it's weird. It used to be they were horrible. Like Aikman won him 15 and threw like 1 billion interceptions and then got better. Now guys come in, like Lamar. Lamar's taking a step back.
Mariota got worse every year.
Yeah, it's just different now. I don't understand it. Once they get film on you, they can start to figure you out, and that's what's kind of happening. So, hey, take North Dakota State, take freaking BYU if you want. Go ahead. That's not Steve Young. And let Fields fall to a real team. At least he'll have a chance. Trevor will be fine. I could see Trevor still winning, Super Bowls with the Jets, believe it or not, even though that sounds stupid because he's such a generational talent, which I don't use often. Tom Brady didn't have great receivers around him. He didn't have great talent around him.
Yeah, but he did have a great franchise infrastructure.
And a great coach too. So I don't know. Maybe they'll hire the right guy. Maybe Dabo will go to New York with him.
At least they drafted, a left tackle. They got a left tackle already, which is one of the problems the Bengals have.
Becky.
Yeah, he's good.
He is good. He's a monster and a nice kid and a former Rivals Camp Series MVP, I believe, right?
That's right. I gave him that award.
Did you? He's the biggest human being ever. Like 6'6", 360 something?
Yeah. He was about 380 something when we saw him. He might have been even more. All right, anything else you want to talk about before we wrap up?
No. TV, I'm stagnant. I don't know what I'm watching. I haven't found a new series yet.
I watched the Saved by the Bell reboot. Did you watch that?
Is it bad?
It's okay. They kind of know what they're kind of in on the joke, I believe is what Rob said when he described it. So it's okay.
I don't want to see, because there's this new show on MTV called Deliciousness, which is a offshoot of Ridiculousness.
Yeah, pretty bad. Yeah.
And Tiffany Thiessen, who's no longer Amber Thiessen or whatever, she's hosting. I don't want to see it. I don't want to. So I don't want to see anything Saved by the Bell. Although, was the girl who was in that movie in it the one who she got naked?
Elizabeth Berkley, yeah, she was in it.
She was? Okay. I like her.
Okay.
She's a good actress. I watched that movie over and over.
Yeah, I'm sorry I brought it up now.
It's a good movie. I don't know what it was called, but I watched it.
It was called Striptease.
At least 20 times. I watched it. Okay. I think we can finish on that, right? Do you want to see a helmet? No?
No, please, no. Helmet.
I just redid the room.
Follow Mike on Instagram for his I'm gonna put up a shelf. I need to put up a shelf over here and get rid of this stuff.
I rearranged. Notice that the Under Armour is getting a little love now, where it was Army before.
I don't notice which ones get.
Well,
I didn't know those were all Under Armour helmets. I'd like to know how you get these people to send you free helmets. That's what
I'm trying to get a bidding war going between NBC and Under Armour. So what I'm going to do is I switch the helmets every once in a while. So once they watch this, they'll be like, "Oh my God, I want our helmet to be in the background. Let's sign a multi-million-dollar year deal with Rivals."
Yeah, well, they're trying to get me to come down and cover some freshman All-American game on December 22nd. I was like, that's going to be a no for me.
That sounds safe.
Yeah, well, it's I don't know. It's weird they can't have the big game, but they're having the freshman game. So
I'll be home for Christmas for the first time in 20 years. Probably more than that. I'll be home for Christmas.
Where do you usually go for Christmas?
I'll be home for Christmas and not leaving the next day. I'll be home for New Year's. Let's put it that way. First time in like 20
that's the most.
years.
Listen, that's the most exciting. Even though I am leaving the day after Christmas to go cover the show, the fact that I can be wherever I want to be on New Year's Eve for the first time in a decade.
Not that I care. I mean, I'll stay up late, but I won't be in a Denny's in San Antonio or some Buffalo Wild Wings in Orlando for the first time in like 20 years.
Yeah, last year on New Year's Eve, I got ditched by Sam Spiegelman and Jake Reeves. They said they were going to come meet me somewhere, and they never showed up. So
that makes sense. You're young.
I rang in the New Year alone. So
no, you ain't the only one. I was probably in my room alone, and they did fireworks again, as always they do in Disney, and it woke me up at midnight. Fireworks.
You don't even stay on property.
No, but I heard them. I'm a light sleeper.
All right, that wraps it up for us. Please subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You think you follow on Spotify, and leave us some reviews. We need them badly. So thanks for listening. We'll be back next week. Thanks, Mike.
Yep.